Hey y'all. So look, it's been a while since I've talked to you. It's been like a month since I've chopped it up with y'all on social media. And this video, I'm not guaranteeing it's gonna be long, but I'm definitely gonna go ahead and allow for the fact that this video could end up being pretty long. Um, because there's a couple things that I want to talk about. There are some conversations that I've had, and also conversations that I've been uh, that I've listened to, and so these topics uh, come to mind, and there's something that I wanted to address, and and right now in my life, I try to speak only when it's fruitful, when it's necessary, as far as I feel is concerned, uh, and it's encouraging. If I feel like I'm just talking just to be talking, then I'm not gonna do that. But if I feel like I could say something that's encouraging, maybe beneficial to someone, maybe enlightening to someone, then I will. And this is an example of that. So, um, what I wanted to talk about today is a couple things. One is boldness. Um, I commented on a post on social media on YouTube a few days ago, and in the post, I made mention of how when I had come to the knowledge of, or come to the place of repentance, initially I was afraid to just go out and start talking about Jesus all of a sudden. Like it just didn't seem like it would resonate, um, and that comes to mind. How I talked about, I said that I was afraid. I was honest in that, you know what I mean? Afraid might be a little uh, extreme, but it sufficiently characterizes the sentiment, right? So, um, and also, I wanted to talk about uh, godly masculinity, godly femininity. Now, this topic I feel like is going to get me in trouble, with not in trouble, but it might be somewhat controversial among believers, because especially men, uh, because they could possibly think that I'm trying to blur the lines between masculine and feminine, but no, that's not remotely what I'm trying to do. I believe that there is masculinity and there is femininity, and I believe that uh, God's attributes are masculine attributes. God is a spirit, and they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and truth. Jesus was born as a man, right? And so there are these manly attributes, right? But follow where I'm going with this. Okay, this is important, and I think the best way to go about it is to kind of share my part of my testimony. How it was for me, and this kind of fits. It kind of serves the purpose of touching on both those topics, right? Number one, boldness, right? Boldness. When you come to a knowledge of God and a knowledge of Christ, and you come to the place where you surrender to Christ, right? And there's a transforming, there's a, you know what I mean? There's a renewing of your mind, you know what I mean? And you want to tell people that, right? There's a boldness that's required, uh, a willingness to share. I hope y'all can hear me, but a willingness to share this, and it just requires being bold. And for me, at least the way I understood my situation, they required a certain amount of boldness, because for so long I had established myself as uh, a personality among a few people. You know what I mean? The few people who paid attention to me or whatever. So uh, my what they were used to is so opposite of the godly nature, that I was like, man, they're not gonna be trying to hear this. They're not gonna even believe me. You know what I mean? And going several years, being in a situation where I felt like I wasn't being believed in certain situations. I don't want to use the word trauma, like I was all like traumatized, but you when you put when you get a certain response for a certain amount of time, you become accustomed to that response, and so that you expect that response. So I didn't initially expect anybody to even be willing to listen to me talk about the things of God, but boldness is required. Um, and that also uh, that also it actually has a lot to do with the feminine and masculine thing that I was talking about as well. Um, when it comes to like, all right, for me, let me start here. My testimony, right? Let me turn this off. My testimony, right? I found myself in a position where I felt like I had a certain amount of attention on me, right? And because of the attention that I felt like I was getting, I felt like, okay, if you're already here, you're already watching, you might as well know who it is you're watching. You know what I mean? Like if you're already watching, like it would be different if I felt like uh, I had set off on this journey to get people to look at me or pay attention to me, and now I have to accept everything that comes along with that. But that's not how it for me. It felt like my journey had gone, because I didn't go out seeking attention. It seemed like I had gotten the attention, and then once I got it, I'm like, all right, if you here and I'm saying leave me alone and you won't leave me alone. Now, mind you, a lot of this, some of it is based on fact, right? Things that were actually occurring, and a lot of it was spiritual. A lot of it was just demonic attack. You know what I mean? Like I had lost my mind, y'all. I had lost my mind. So but I felt like, you're going to pay attention. I'm going to ask you to leave me alone, right? You're not going to leave me alone. You might as well know who I am. And so that gets reduced to, or not even reduced to, I guess it's fair to characterize that by saying that he just wants to be understood. So then you take my personality as this person who just wants to be understood. But that goes so far against my entire life before this situation occurred. It started for me back in like 2014, right? I've never been a person that walks around trying to be understood. Never. You won't find a social media account or post from me, from Joseph Eugene Bodie, before 2014. What does that mean? It means that when everybody else was already on Instagram and already on Facebook, sharing their stories, trying to get attention, trying to do all this stuff, I wasn't into that. That was never my style. Once I started getting this attention, I'm like, wow, all right, they're here. I might as well talk to them. Might as well let them get to understand me, get to know me. And that's when I started to share. But that wasn't my default. You know what I mean? My default to try to be understood, because then you take that, and that is a woman characteristic, right? The need to be understood. So then now we can check. We're going to check all these boxes, right? We're gonna check these boxes, and these are the feminine attributes that are lended to me, that are attributed, that are given to me, right? But that's not like which now, mind you, again, if you say that I have feminine attributes, that doesn't bother me whatsoever. You know what I mean? That doesn't bother me whatsoever. And part of the reason it doesn't bother me whatsoever is because of what I'm going to get into when I talk about this feminine and masculine thing. And that's where some men might get mad. A righteous man, a man with understanding is going to understand what I'm saying. An insecure man is going to get offended by what I'm about to say. And I know this is going to put me under a lot of attack. I know it. I know it. Uh, I went into it understanding this. I get it, but just hear me out. So it gets not reduced to, but it gets characterized as, he just wants to be. He's a man who wants to be understood. Quite frankly, I've never been one to care in that way. I've never been one to care. That's why I was so popular in high school. I marched to the beat of my own drum. I'll wear something before anybody else will wear it. You know what I mean? I'll say something before anybody else. I was a trendsetter. You know what I mean? I didn't like just follow past and like want to be like everybody else. Like I'll just naturally just like I like to be myself. You know what I mean? Like that was me. Like going through school as an adult, like that's just always been me. So just this need to be understood, that is not something that I would hold on to in terms of saying this is part of my character. You know what I mean? But I will admit that because of the situation that I had found myself in, this was something that I was dealing with. You know what I mean? It's like if you're already watching it, and I'm not talking about it didn't to me, it didn't feel like 5 or 6 people. I meant like people in countries I had never been to before. I thought these people knew my name. People in places that I've never seen before, they knew my name. They're like watching me, like, you know what I mean? Like this is really going on in my head. So I'm like, if you're gonna watch me, don't try to own my identity and say he's this, and this, and this. And so now I gotta walk through because, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be either 14 years old or completely idiotic to say that as long as you know who you are. Now, I'm not talking about this. I'm not within an identity of God, not within the identity of Christ. You know what I mean? Within the identity of Christ, we stand on Christ and Christ alone. But I'm talking about just society, just normal, regular, everyday societal interaction. To say I don't care what anybody thinks about me as long as I know who I am, that's all that matters. That is just not real, y'all. That's not real. Like that's not if everybody in the world says that you're a murderer and you know you didn't murder anybody, but wherever you go, you're viewed as this murderer, it's going to take a toll on you because we're hardwired that way as human beings. We're hardwired to be connected to one another. We're social creatures. So we care. So stop with the whole, I don't care. If you really don't care, you're a sociopath. You're either a sociopath or you're a narcissist. One or the other. But we care. We're hardwired to care. All right. So walking through society, I absolutely cared when it seemed like, all right, all eyes are on me. So if all eyes are already on me, it's not like I'm saying, pay attention to me. Look at me. Look at me. Nah, I was saying, will you leave me alone? Like, I just want to be able to walk through society like a normal person, like anybody else. I'm not saying like I have paparazzi, like flashing pictures in my face and stuff like that. But I still felt this attention that was so uncomfortable that to me, it seemed like paparazzi openly flashing bulbs in my face would be exponentially more easy to deal with than the dynamic that I was dealing with because it would have been open. There's an openness to it. You know why these people are following you. They're right there in front of you. Even if they spit like heinous insults in your face and stuff like that, at least it's right. They give me an enemy I can see. But when you feel like you're fighting against people who you're in this figurative boxing ring, right? And your opponent won't even step in the ring with you. They're standing outside the ring throwing stuff at you. And the things that they're throwing at you, the judges are scoring those just the same way they would score it if we were in a ring and you were punching me. But I can't really hit you back because you're outside the ring. To me, that's cowardice. Like, come and fight. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not going away. I'm not running. I'm here. My enemies, they're standing outside the ring, throwing shots from outside the ring. And these are the people who were calling me a coward. It just made no sense to me. Like everything just seemed opposite. And that's how Satan works. That's how Lucifer works. Like everything is the opposite of truth. Like everything was just so opposite. It was just so weird to me. Like I didn't understand it. So I got to a place where, yes, I was saying, look, if you're going to pay attention to me, at least know who I am. Right. So then you get this character of he just cares what people think about him. So it seems like then you can take my entire issue, the issue that I'm having, and just reduce it to he's bothered or he's sensitive about the fact that nobody understands him. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's what I'm upset about. Even now, mind you, I was trying to, if you're going to pay attention, you might as well understand who I am. So yes, I'm trying to get people to understand. But if you would reduce it to that being my issue and not the fact that this man is looking around and he literally can't tell what's real and what's not. Like I didn't know, like I had lost my mind. I didn't know if people were really paying attention to me because I had gone and told, I've been in psychiatric hospitals and told doctors this is what I'm experiencing. And none of them said, Mr. Bodie, it's not in your head. You know, from a medical standpoint, it would be healthy for you to know that this is not in your head. Nobody's saying that. So then after a while, I start to think, is it in my head? Like, am I just imagining this? Like, so then you become even more confused. You know, I became more confused because I was objective enough to question my own beliefs. I was objective enough to question it. It wasn't like I went into it like, I know what I'm seeing, I know I'm right, and this is what it is. I literally like would sit down and really question, like, is this in my head? And doing that just made me more confused. You know what I mean? So it's like being objective just made me more unstable, right? So that's one way to characterize it, right? The feminine attributes that were attributed to me. And again, I'm not ashamed of, because certain my ability to communicate, my ability to empathize. Like there are a lot of qualities that I have that in society would be considered feminine qualities that I thank God that I have. And that goes, and I'm going to get to this feminine and masculine thing, which is where a lot of men are probably going to get upset. But that's an example of what I'm going to talk about. I thank God for those qualities. So I'm not ashamed of that. But then when I realized that, you know, it seemed like people wanted me to be embarrassed. They wanted me to be ashamed, right? It's like my enemy wants me to be embarrassed. My enemy wants me to be ashamed, right? So I'm like, what are they trying to spin? So I'm thinking of all these things, like everything about me. It seemed like they were trying to take and spin it into something else. When it came to my sexuality, when it came to my likes, my dislikes, not just sexual things, just in general, like who my entire self, my identity. It seemed like it was being skewed. And when perception is reality, if enough people are saying that and enough people are looking online and seeing that, wherever you go to the grocery store, that's what they're seeing. So and there's an island dynamic to that. Like this, you feel alone. You just feel like you're just walking through life all by yourself. Like you're on this island and you're just on this island and then there's everything around you, but you're navigating through life, but you're on this island, you know what I mean, by yourself, you know what I mean? It just felt lonely. And nobody wants to be alone. And that's probably another feminine attribute that society will say is a feminine attribute. I didn't want to be alone. You know what I mean? I wanted to love somebody. I wanted to have genuine friendships. I wanted to have genuine relationships, romantic and platonic. Just I didn't want to be alone. We're social creatures. You know what I mean? Am I not a man because of that? You know what I mean? Like that. And I'm gonna get to this feminine masculine thing, and it's gonna make some people upset. But no. So basically, um, it felt like